Funny enough, this is something I learned when we started. There's speech and debate, and speech part is much different than the debate part. So these are our speakers' original oratory. It's part of speech. That it's 10 minutes or less in their own words, written by them, and it's written normally from the heart story, and it's supposed to change hearts and minds. They do the same speech. They should probably speak to this. They do the same speech all year. But basically, I was in a place in my career where things were a little dark, and I needed to be reminded that there was good in the world. And that's where I met Guy, who had been working on this project for years before that. I can let him speak to how he discovered the world. But very early on, he sent me Esther doing her speech her sophomore year when she became the national champion for the first time. And it was definitely a moment where, like, it was like hearing Obama speak for the first time. And I was like, this girl is so young and so brilliant. And yeah, and I never looked back.
Always the competition element was central to narratively to the film, but Jen and I really aligned from the start in that we knew we wanted to do something a little different. And we wanted to tell the story from the point of view of the piece that they're writing, if you can conceive of that as the piece they're writing as a character in and of itself, and allow the competition to be almost present, but not necessarily in the foreground. What's more important to us is to really spend time. It always was for us to spend time at home with them and to try and tell a really intimate story about their lives and how it tied into the piece they're writing. So competition is important. It always was, but Jen will be the first to say that this is not a competition film. So, but maybe it is. Some would like to categorize it as, but it's sort of straddling, hopefully, some different genres, if you will.
We're kind of like a work hard, play hard little generation. Like, we like to have our fun, but we're also like serious and we care about things. And I think our generation stands on that work hard, play hard, and we like to make our voices be heard and communicate about things that matter to us because we've grown up in a world where things have not always been the greatest, and we're like, it's time for that to change. So yeah, this film just really captures all of our voices and shows how we care about these things and how much we care about them through our speeches. And we live our speeches. I say that at the end of this film, like, we don't just compete and leave it there. Like, these speeches, we live them, and we try to bring what we say into the real world.
Yeah, I would just say for me, like echoing everything Mafaz says, but the idea of like representation and visibility in speech and debate, I think is so important. I mean, that's how I found speech and debate. There was an alum from my school. She was the 2019 informative speaking champion. She was Black, and she had a lot to say. And I remember being like, I'm going to be like her when I grow up. And just because I saw someone who looked like me. And I think that's the power of speech and debate, is that this platform, it gives all these students and all of us to share our stories in an authentic way and also like have a lot of fun. Like, Mufaz's superpower is that she's hilarious. Like, Sam is a theater genius, and like you get to see like all of us, like our characters shine through while also staying true to our message. So yeah.
So first and foremost, it is terrifying. At least for me, it never really got less terrifying. You just get a little more used to it. But words for me have always mattered. I've always kind of struggled with understanding people and communicating well, especially when I was younger. So to be able to be in an environment where every word you say means something, and the exact words you say, and your diction, and kind of what words you choose to use and the way you choose to use them is so critical and poured over hundreds of times by your judges, by competitors, by coaches. Like, that was just an extraordinary experience for me to be able to be in a place where our choice of words matter so much, and kind of in turn to help me find the words I need in moments where I need them.
It definitely is scary, but like Esther said, I've been doing theater for as long as I can remember. So when I found speech, and specifically oratory, it was a bit of a shift because I wasn't acting per se. I wasn't in character. But I mean, I figured it out, and it's so much fun. And for me, the thing that takes away the fear is that I really care about what I'm saying.
I personally am deathly afraid of public speaking. I wasn't able to stand up in front of a crowd, or I don't think I would have even been able to do this interview if it wasn't for public speaking. But I agree with Sam in the aspect of if it is something that you really truly care about and you want to make a change, it doesn't matter. And the competition is fun, but just advocating for something that is so special in our personal lives definitely makes a difference. So.
First of all, Samuel Alito did speech and debate. Ted Cruz did speech and debate. Ketanji Brown Jackson did speech and debate. Brad Pitt did speech and debate. Stephen Colbert did speech and debate. Um, Bruce Springsteen, who I hope one day gets the chance to see this film. Jordan Peele, uh, Keenan Thompson, and then Oprah Winfrey. Now, Oprah has been out in the open much more advocating for this sport. I'm going to call it a sport. Are we all on board with that? Yeah. And so these others have been less out there. Josh Gad, our EP, as you pointed out, definitely a huge advocate for this, and we're very lucky to have him. And he is a joy, and these kids adore him and they idolize him because he's he took it as seriously as they do. So anyway, just a few. Those are just a few. Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually a connection made through the NSDA. They've been supporters. The guy set up that relationship from the very beginning. There would be no film if it wasn't for that support, and there would be no Josh Gad introduction. So it was very symbiotic, I guess it was. Yeah, it came together, and he's just. It was really interesting because when we were casting, we cast these guys. It took about 6 months, and we listened to a lot of casting tapes, and we would ask the kids, what speech do you stands out the most? It was always Josh Gad, Josh Gad, Josh Gad. And I didn't realize that he was such a celebrity in the world beyond the celebrities. He's just so beloved. So yeah, he's perfect.
I feel like people underestimate how much research speech kids do. Like, we talk for 10 minutes and 30 seconds, but for the better part of the year, we're just researching. And like, you'll find research that goes against what you're saying. So now you need to shift your mindset and shift your paradigm and shift your perspective. And that's also okay as well. But I love the point that you make up that it's like evidence based. Like, we get to inject our personalities, but we're not just making up stuff. We're not just like adding fluff. Like, these are real issues and we have evidence to back it up. I think that's the beauty of speech and debate, is that even though like we're telling our stories, there's also evidence and research and people who are way more qualified than we are that are also saying the same thing. We just now get the platform to tell everyone around us, and I think that's the really cool part about it.
I think also something that's really cool about oratory specifically is that since we get to write our speeches, we can add in stuff as we go. And I love adding in like current events or stuff that's happening in the state that we're competing in. Like, I think Esther and me both did this for the national final round. We added stuff about like the state we were competing in, and we were like, in this state, this is happening. And I think that's just such a cool thing that you can do in speech, and especially oratory, where you're writing these speeches months prior, but you can still add in these facts and informations to prove your point that it's current, and that's why this matters to talk about right now.
I guess to speak a little more to the process itself, for my speech this year, obviously the topic was a little heavy. Suicide is something that has been talked about a lot, but maybe not talked in the light that I wanted it to be, or I thought it should be. So we took maybe 3 weeks to kind of research and not write any of the speech, just research and become as educated as possible. And part of that I think a lot of kids do, that I was really blessed to be able to do, is I was able to meet with advocates or lawyers or doctors who are in this space. I talked to a doctor in Sweden who is kind of in a development team for physician-assisted suicide pods. And it kind of gives us as teenagers just almost like something to write in the head of an email. Be like, hey, I'm doing this for a reason. I'm writing a speech. Can I talk to you? Can I interview you? And professionals and adults have been so open to us kind of talking to them. And I think that's an opportunity, and that's something that I'm super, super grateful, is that in the process of writing the speech, you get the chance to talk to a lot of people who do know what they're talking about, and kind of to become, although not as experienced, little beacons of okay, I have researched this topic. I do know what I'm talking about, for our fellow peers and judges to, even where if they come to us after round, we know enough and we've researched enough to where we can educate them beyond the bounds of our speech.
Because of the nature of this film and because we had a very clear vision of what we wanted this film to be, and especially because they're all minors, we decided to independently finance this film. So we are hoping that we find the right home for it while we're here at Sundance. It is up for grabs, so fingers crossed. It is it played so well. It's such a beautiful film, and I think the biggest response we've gotten is just it's kind of what we need right now. It's called Speak. It could just as well be called Listen, because that's what these kids do so well. They listen to one another, they respect one another, they treat each other with just, they uplift one another, and we've just somehow lost that.